So we're back with the word of dietitians ونحكي عن specific stuff. Let's say خاصهم بالكاربز وإذا بعد الستة ولا مش بعد الستة وكل هالحركات وكل هالميث وكل هول القصص that social media وقعون علينا وكيف كل واحد بالكومنت سكشن بيصير دايتيشن وهيك. So أول شيء أهلا وسهلا فيك.
Thank you.
If you can شوي أول شيء تعرفينا عن حالك, your background, now are you a practitioner بclinic, how are you working exactly هلا?
I'm Adriana. I just came back from London. I've studied there for 6 years. I did my bachelor's in nutrition, one master's in sport nutrition specifically, and my second master's as a dietitian. And I've specialized in eating disorders specifically. So this is really the topic that, it's what I talk about on a day-to-day.
The good part لأنه هقطشك إنه most of the time أمنا لطشي يعني بس إنه a lot of dietitians stops على الليسانس.
Yes.
So هون my question is بعد الليسانس شو بيزيد؟
I do believe that dietitians need additional training, especially when you're going to specialize with a certain population, like eating disorders. It requires a lot of psychology, a lot of motivational interviewing and behavior change techniques, which are not taught as part of a nutrition licence. So definitely, I would say there needs additional training.
بس مثلا بعدين ليه you went into sports, right?
So actually, it was COVID time. I was finding getting a job very difficult, and the dietetics masters had not launched yet at UCL. And I love sports as my hobby. It's something that deeply interests me. And I found this 1-year masters. So I thought
هيك قاعدين بالبيت.
هيك قاعدين بالبيت 100%. And it was amazing. It was one of the best years of my life actually, despite everything that was
بس
happening.
تقريبا this kind of was a different orientation for you. يعني ما كنت عندك this type of feel in your mind. إنه ورا هيدا شيء صار في orientation جديدة.
There's a link, sports, in terms of, there's a lot of prevalence of eating disorders in sports as well. You know, the perfectionism, the achieving excellence in sport. So there's definitely a lot of work in that sense, but also I really love working with athletes and it interests me. So
when you look now, هون حنبلش شوي بالقصص. When you look now at it, okay, when you come from a background of someone that did sports related diets وهيك وكل هالقصص. اليوم عنا موضوع على طول نحكي عنه كذا مرة اللي بيسمعنا عادة سمعها. We have a problem sometimes للأسف مع trainers that are entitled to be dietitians. وهون لأنه عم نحكي عن موضوع اللي خاصه بسبورتس دايت. اليوم شو صلاحياته الترينر بالدايت ولا ما عنده صلاحيات ولا ممنوع يقدم صوب فكرة to recommend a diet أو to implement a diet أو حتى فكرة to give a diet. يعني اليوم هو بيعطي workout plan بيعطي يعني أهم من هو بيعمل بيكتب. So هون المشكلة هيدي قد ايه غلط وين الأغلاط اللي بتصير وشو الكونسيومر لازم ينتبه.
So this is a very, very important question. Thank you for asking it. A lot of trainers are giving meal plans, which unfortunately come from personal experience and not from education, which means that this person is giving knowledge based on what is good for them, perhaps what has worked for them, and yet they don't have the background, whether it be in biology, nutritional sciences, to give advice to someone else, especially if this person has special needs. If they are children, we're seeing 16-year-olds in the gym being given restrictive diets, which impact their growth. We're seeing people with health needs being given diets that are not for them. So absolutely, I think this needs to be more regulated. In many countries it is. In Lebanon, we're seeing progress with the start of the Lebanese Order of Dietitians.
Okay.
So inshallah, this is going to start to be more regulated.
بس مثلا اليوم لما نحكي بعدين بعد شغلة خاصة بالموضوع اليوم. So a diet has to be linked كمان to medicine to كذا شغلة مثلا مثل ما said there's medical conditions there's يعني it has to be customized. بس اليوم لما نرجع على الموضوع تبع dietitian بحد ذاته قد ايه بنسمع مثلا on a marketing purpose. أول شيء I'm going to ask you a question before that and I don't know about this. A dietitian is allowed to go full on marketing ولا he's considered يعني في specific doctors وهيك they're not allowed to do marketing for their product بطريقة معينة أو في limitations. Does a dietitian have a limitation when it comes to him marketing himself?
To be honest, when I was practicing in London, there definitely were limitations because if you're sponsoring a product, you're sort of like, you have conflicts of interest in that sense, and we're supposed to be really unbiased and provide scientific evidence as it is. So we would normally recommend, if I was in London recommending a product, dietitians would typically recommend 2 or 3 or 4. In Lebanon, I don't know what the regulations are and how it works. But obviously there are ads and all those things, so you can in that sense be marketing products.
هون لما بنرجع موضوع بالماركتينج aspect مثلا how we see dietitians بالmarket. The dietitian بالmarket is not about how he is in it. في ناس قاطعين عم يقربوا. So dietitian is not in a position هون السؤال بالmarketing aspect. When we look at it بالvisuals بالreels وبالقصص اللي بنشوفها, it's always a matter of two things تقريبا I'm gonna say it. أول before after تبع their clients, وتاني part إنه their secret sauce. يعني اليوم أنا بعطي هيدا البلان و this is يعني they go full on hardcore marketing على plan. يعني it's the tool and the product is a plan. مش إنه لازم يعني ما في education aspect. يعني مش إنه بقول للشخص لازم تجي لعندي لازم أقعد معك لازم أفهمك. no بس بيبيعوا a plan. So هون on this marketing aspect شو شغله الدايتيشن؟ شغله يكتب بلان ويصير يبيعه شمال يمين, ولا شغله on a personal level مثل في personal trainer كمان غلط اللي بيطبق على كل نفس الترين on a personal aspect of every client, ولا على طولتي الموضوع بس هول كلهم بيجوا سوا, ولا هو انه عنده غير صلاحيات؟
Okay, it's a very good question, and I just want to say a meal plan is part of the work, but it's definitely not most of the work. If you're helping a client to rely on a meal plan, then you're only helping them to rely on this meal plan. When they're going to go out, change, their lives, live the rest of their life, they are relying on your meal plan, which I don't believe is actually in the interests of a client. Personally, most of my work is more behavioral psychology, understanding, okay, you're overeating, for example. Why are we overeating? What is the function of overeating in our life? It has a function. This is understanding what the roots of the problem are. If we stick a diet as a plaster on the problem, we're only sticking a plaster which eventually is gonna come back to the same problem. So absolutely, I think the way I work anyway is that most of the work, we don't really talk about food. We don't talk about meal plans. We talk about what is going on in this person's life, which impacts their relationship with food.
So مثلا اليوم when we go to a dietitian, it's a matter of one session ولا enrollment into a specific plan?
Do you mean
يعني مثلا في كتير ناس you go to the dietitian بترجع معك الورقة وخلصت body fat test ما بعرف شو, ولبنة الصبح ما بعرف شو هيدا عشية هيدي الورقة وما في follow up, وبس بدها مثلا بس بده الشخص هو يرجع يحكي مثلا بعد شهر او whatever. So اليوم the correct way of going into a dietitian مثلا ما بيعرف او مثلا بيروح على محلات غلط او شيء, اليوم it's a matter of being enrolled with this person على long term, ولا it's okay to be there for one session?
I'll ask you the question back to if you came to me and I give you a meal plan, eat labna in the morning, eat mabalim, whatever it is.
بخسرها.
There you go.
No.
That's the answer to your question.
How does it work? Is it a weekly based thing? Is it in how do you track with someone, let's say on a long term, Asan, there's a, let's go very basic, a fat loss case that wants to lose weight. You work on a week, is it micro, macro? How does it work cycles? Is it on a weekly base, on a monthly base?
I think it's important that, you're supporting a client to work independently. So obviously we have a certain period of time we're going to work together, but also eventually this person is going to become autonomous, is going to learn how to support themselves and have a healthy lifestyle. But it's definitely not a matter of a session. It's education over several sessions. Some will be more educational, some more emotional, some more centered around the practical stuff. How are we dealing with the real day-to-day food problems that this person might
Do you work on building habits?
Absolutely. I strongly believe in the power of habit. I don't believe it's there's good science to back it up, and this is technically a lot of the work I do is about building habits and encouraging. There are 3 things that can change a habit: the motivation, the environment, and the person's capability. When we work on these 3 things, we're supporting a client, we're empowering them to change their habits.
مثلا is there a thing مثلا such as إنه كل شخص بيصير يفهم جسمه ويتعلم كيف يشبع مثلا؟
Absolutely. This is something that when you think about it, we're born with. A child is born with the ability to eat intuitively. This is changed when our mom told us clean your plate. Someone told us مالي إنه ماني جوعان مالي have this there's emotion with the food. There are so many variables in society, but we are all able to feel our hunger and to eat when we're hungry and learn how to eat more mindfully. And there is very good evidence supporting this.
شو رايك بانه حدا ياكل كويس بعد الساعه 6؟
يعني I think it doesn't make sense to put rules, any rules.
But is it يعني أنا I go from this aspect. Is it more about the difference between your sleeping time and your last meal rather than this myth of timing? Is it this way to look for it? يعني إزاي مثلا عن جد ideal time to stop eating just for مثلا better for your sleeping habits for يعني مش إنه لأنه حتنصح زيادة بس إنه cardiovascular reasons or whatever. So if we go on this aspect, is it more about this?
Absolutely. I would say if you want to get good sleep, really benefit both from digestion and sleep, you'd have your last meal 2 hours before going to bed. But whether it's a question of eating late in the evening, I think the previous perspective was that if we're eating late at night, it causes glucose changes in the next day. There's new research to show that if you actually have a nutritious snack before bed, it helps with your muscle mass, because before a fasting period overnight, it can help specific groups like older people as well, to give them energy overnight. It's really good for athletes. It can even help with weight management. So I think it's really important to not think black and white and think
هيقطع من هون basketball هلا. One second. هون جيراننا. It's fine. Okay. So my point هلا the question is about نسوني شوي but it's fine. Okay. When it comes to the rules that we see online in terms of the comment section. Because of all because of social media, a lot of people are more vocal about their own problems. And sometimes people might be abusing them, sometimes people might be using it just for awareness انه هن عم يقطعوا بشيء. بيناتهم مثلا كثير بسمعوا كثير بشوفها وانا اول فتره انه كنت كثير انه لسه مستغرب. مثلا بنسمع حدا انه وقع بالبنج ايتنج. Is it يعني if you want to define it on a medical slash أول شيء is it a medical condition يعني بتتصنف هيك شو بيصير ويعني how do you look at it from a dietitian perspective لأنه نحن اليوم نقعد بالميم section وبالcomment section إنه it's a culture that is built on هول القصص وهيدا الزناخة كمان بس on a scientific slash medical aspect is binge eating مثلا a disorder, it's a medical condition, what is it, how do you get over it يعني هول القصص كلهم.
So binge eating is a psychiatric disorder. When so there's the DSM-5, which is basically which states the diagnostic criteria to say that a person has binge eating disorder.
Okay.
I think these criteria are quite specific, like experiencing binges at a number of times a week, over a number of times a month, etc., etc.
But you're telling me it's linked to mental?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So binge eating and any other eating disorder is essentially a projection of a person's emotions and trauma onto food.
But so you work in parallel مع psychologue or psychiatrist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is someone especially who might have a binge eating disorder, which is, there is a spectrum. Some people might experience occasional binges. Some people might experience binges but not fit the criteria to get a diagnosis. So depending on where this person is, they will need different levels of dietetic and psychology and psychiatric input. Obviously, with the condition being a diagnosis and being more severe, you really need more reliance on psychology and psychiatry than dietetic input.
هون بدي انهيها بموضوع شوي هلا تذكرته شوي ما بينحكى عن الموضوع when it comes اليوم to dietitians. Okay. هلا يمكن للأسف إنه هون بالمنطقة whatever on a male dietitian يمكن مرات تكون غير female dietitian إذا لا correct me but let's go from the general aspect of it. اليوم أو بالstudies يعني if you look for studies أو مثلا إذا في case studies بيصيروا بالجامعات أو whatever اليوم فكرة إنه a woman has her period is also studied in terms of including it in her diet. يعني اليوم في a specific week في more calories burned, في more requirement, munching more بنسمعها هيك إنه munching more, calories more, sweet more. هول القصص are they more and more being included to adapt specific diets لأنه كتير مرات إنه خلص إنه بضل على طول نفس الشيء إنه كتير بشوفها إنه ما حتجي أو مثلا she won't tell her dietitian about her period. So اليوم في شيء خاص بهذا الموضوع؟
Of course, there's important considerations when it comes to women's health. Absolutely, whether this is a big myth. Oh, you're PMSing and you're having cravings. No, you just feel like snacking. This is something that we hear a lot in Lebanon, and I want to emphasize that when you are in PMS, you may experience cravings as a result of hormonal changes, and these need to be honored because this is our body changing in this period of time. And also, specifically, if you have conditions like PCOS, which is common in Lebanon, or endometriosis as well, there are very...
Why is it common?
Why is it common? I wouldn't know. It's genetic.
But the studies مبين what it is.
It is. It is. When you look at the prevalence of PCOS in Lebanon, it is quite
What is
common.
it exactly? شو يعني؟
So I forgot the numbers exactly.
Yeah, but see, what is this? شو يعني؟
PCOS.
Yeah.
PCOS is a syndrome
Okay.
whereby you have hormonal changes
Okay.
which might make periods their frequency, like frequency abnormalities, heavier. You have a lot of symptoms as well, whether it's mental health, changes in acne, body weight. So you have a bigger predisposition to weight gain, hair loss.
So كمان it reflects on the amount of food you eat وهيك. Requirement أو مثلا إنه in terms of okay.
Absolutely. It's important to be able to support patients, for example, from the side of weight gain in terms of PCOS, and being really careful about taking this into consideration and not blaming patients and, really approaching this with an empathetic attitude.
هذه آخر واحدة. When it comes to the communication with the client, should you go on the personal or not to? Should you understand the personal life of the person too? Well, this is not a thing that a dietitian should go into to understand his client. يعني اليوم مثل ما حكينا يمكن مثلا female منهم مرتاحين مع the male dietitian لأنه it's a matter of just a doctor أو a clinic عم زون. So اليوم بالcommunication aspect, is it important for you to break this with your client from the first session and to build up eventually ما بدو تكون رفقة أو في واتساب وهذا بس إنه اليوم to build up a way of communication where there's transparency بكل المواضيع لأنه you're just here for a specific task and you make this person feel more comfortable. So dietitians should break this barrier. يعني في كتير ناس ما بتصير حتى بين بعضهم مع clients يعني.
Sorry, what is exactly your question? It's
to build up a communication مع client.
Of course.
How important it is.
Of course, the communication is the number one thing. If your client doesn't trust you, then, the advice that you're giving and you're supporting them is not going to be able to really hold this person. They're talking about something that, might be vulnerable, whether in terms of weight gain or the history of why a person might have gained weight. It's very important to make a person feel safe, understood, that you're going to respect the confidentiality as well, which is something that, in Lebanon as well, is not well regulated enough. So really making a person feel like you're hearing them and always it's the client who knows best. It's not the dietitian.
Thank you so much for your time. It was
Thank
supposed to be a 10-minute hit 20 minutes لأنه the topics were very good. I'm so happy we had time. Hopefully not بعد أطول قصص معي.
أكيد.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tafi.